working today. Some of those guys.
Yeah, the last few.
Spring chickens either. They make that
Sand over by that high school, boy, does she just let her come through on about a 15-second rotation.
Ready?
Got an extra?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You wanna, Mr. Mayor, you wanna wait just for Jeremy to get back?
Okay, it's 5:30, we'll call this meeting of the Emergency Government Committee together on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 at 5:30. This will be an open meeting and notice has been given to the public at least 24 hours prior to the meeting by forwarding the complete agenda to the newspaper and all news medias who have requested the same, as well as by posting. Copies of the complete agenda were available for inspection at the office of the city administrator. Roll call.
Mayor Cliff Martin,
Here.
Josh Bosta,
Here.
Cassie Dubek is excused, Jeremy Westerberg,
Here.
Daryl Anderson,
Here.
Casey Zoll.
Here.
Perfect.
Okay, on number 3. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
So move.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried to approve the agenda. Approval of minutes from the 5/21/25 meeting. Any changes or concerns?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried to approval of the minutes from the 5/21/2025 meeting. Any correspondence? Not, any public input? Nope. Nope. Okay, moving on to number 7, discussion, action, recommendation on the following. 7A, tornado sirens. Go ahead, Josh.
You know, just getting to be that time of year again, similar stances to our previous meetings, looking for that direction to get the annual maintenance performed by the emergency communication company. Their quote stayed relatively similar, but we can get the maintenance performed on all 4 of the sites for a total of $1,900. When they come in, if we need a little bit of a reminder, obviously there's a list of inspection things that they do, but it goes from the electrical components, connections, inspecting the ground system, the pole, the rotary motor, greasing it, belts if they're in it, depending on the age of them, the ones that are equipped with the battery backup, making sure the cold cranking amps are there, if they need replacing, and so forth. So they do, you know, a pretty thorough inspection for a tornado siren. They got 14 things listed here that they do if the siren is equipped with them. Talked to them briefly today. Still would be able to fit us in, you know, as we're fast approaching the seasons, but would still be able to get us in at a timely manner. But the long and short of it is, yes, we did advertise the new version of the code red that has been discussed here in emergency management meetings. It has changed over at the beginning of the year to called Rave Alert. We put these flyers at different locations throughout the community so that there's access with the QR code log, you know, to log into things like that. Them bulletins are still out there. We distribute them with the help of the Unified School District to go through the mass emailing tree at the school to get it reached out to the parents, because I figured just drop them off at school. The children aren't probably all real good at getting paper copies home anymore. But I think we've done, you know, a lot of good with trying to add tools to our toolbox and keeping up to date with trends and technology, but I still stand pretty firm that technology is as good as the weakest link part of it. And if it's severe weather, does things get pushed out in notifications as quickly as or not? And if we have the sirens in place, maintenance on them that says they're all good, you know, and that's activated through the 911 system. And sometimes them alerts, same thing. If the power goes out prior to an alert, there are going to be 2 of the 4 that are not battery backup because of their age, but we would still have at least 2 that would be able to see.
What about the one that is not working at all?
The treatment plant one is usable. I haven't followed up with since the new plant is being established. That was just because of the rotary motor in it being wore out. it would trip the fuse breaker in the, is it that chlorine little garage?
Chlorine contact room.
It would always start sounding, and then with trying to spool up is when it would trip that breaker. The perfect answer, it's not that it's fixed and doesn't need attention, but that one's the long haul one. We're currently, if the breaker's tripped, we can reset it, and then it'd be ready to operate to its current capacity until it would
It
trip that
won't
breaker.
fire up though?
It will start firing up, but it wouldn't make that full 3-minute rotation, and it's been probably a good year since I tripped that breaker to say, you know, are we talking 30 seconds? Are we talking a minute? I don't know that currently.
So to bring them really up, you'd have to replace that rotor in there?
That one would probably need a full replacement. Because of the age of that siren, they don't have a replacement motor anymore. If we're looking at a replacement for that particular siren to get up to date, if that pole would sustain a new siren on top of it, the siren and installation is like $26,000. If that pole isn't meeting the code and the recommendation for the wind and all that stuff, the way, obviously, over the years, but to add a pole, it's about a $2,500 on top of charge, which would get you up to about $29,160 to replace that site.
And then, oh, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
So 1900, they come in and pretty much inspect them.
Yep.
Perform any smaller maintenance.
Yep.
What would be required to get the siren on P-core functioning? Cause that works, but not to its full, like it doesn't spin.
That is the one that's at the wastewater treatment plant. The one that we're discussing is out at the wastewater
Well, yeah,
treatment plant.
but isn't the one on P-core also not operating?
Nope. The last time that a test was done, that one is functional. The one at the high school is functional, and the copper culture one is functional.
Well, I'm sorry, I was under the impression that the one on P-core Street, like the wobbler or something was.
I think in our last meeting, we were discussing that would be, you know, that we, with Jeremy's assistance, if we didn't wanna go through the certified inspection, like, we could, you know, look at it, if there's grease certs or lubricating parts, we could get in there and look at that wobbler, but just that one at the age of it, it's not a rotator. It looks like it would sit up there and wobble the directional out of it.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I guess my only concern would be is, one, I don't think there's any funds right now in the emergency government right now, so any funding would have to be approved by council for any expense, because it would have to come out of general fund. My only concern is in the future, we talked about this, obviously, if a siren needs to be replaced, or is that the direction we wanna take? Obviously, we already know that a large number of communities in the area have gotten away from tornado sirens just because of the high cost for them. I agree, I mean, obviously Josh would disagree, you know, and we can disagree on things, but that's what, we just gotta be concerned that, again, this committee right here, there is no money. So any approval on anything, including the maintenance, we could go ahead and approve that, just because they are operational right now, just because $1,900 is not a whole lot of money. But that, since we have no money, that would still have to get pushed to council for their approval.
Yeah.
We couldn't just approve that here.
You have to
because
put it
there's
on
no funding.
finance, have to go on finance and then council.
And that
Yeah.
would come out of the general fund.
It would have to come out of general fund. You know, as far as that, the electric goes, we did just fire the plant up this week, the new changeover there, so, we can kinda check on that next week. You and I can go over there and just double check, just to make sure, with that new panel that's up and running over there, everything's running fine, you know. But that plant has full backup now, so if there is something that would trip out there any, or we lose power out there, it does have full power backup to that entire plant, which would include that tornado siren too, so.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
So, I mean, I know it's just us in here, you know, talking, but in my, just kinda asking of the public what their thoughts are on this. And granted, it's not scientific by any means, it's social media, but, you know, the majority would like to see the sirens functioning. for multiples of reasons, you know, that the app is, you know, works, but maybe not for everybody, or if we lose power, or the elderly, you know, people in the community, where the sirens are old school, they're dependable, they're fired from a remote, you know, place that's getting information, you know, on the fly, and works instantaneously, and you don't need to have a phone or anything on you. So I think this is something that we really need to consider, you know, pushing through, and asking, or not 100% of the process, but moving this towards the council and asking them to approve the maintenance at least. But I think that fourth one should be, you know, if it can't be replaced, I think we should seriously think about replacing it, so we have coverage from each end of town.
That would have to be something in the budgeting for next
absolutely.
year.
It'd have to be a
October,
budgeting
September,
factor,
October.
cause I see it both ways. I got a large number and a good majority of the residents saying that we don't need them. You know, that typically outside sirens are for people that are outside, you know, cause a lot of the sirens, you can go inside, and a lot of people that are inside, you don't hear those sirens. If you got TVs on, they're meant for outside. If people are outside, that's what they're meant for, you know, and again, there's no perfect answer either way, right, wrong, or indifferent. You know, I look at it, maybe I look at it different than everybody else. I just look at this day and age and technology and word of mouth. If there's a event coming on, that's no different than, we can't predict if there's gonna be a flash flood tonight. We know the waters are high, but we can't predict that, right? That if we could stop every weather event, it'd be perfect, but unfortunately, that's just not possible. You know, it's whether or not we want that expense. Is that expense worth it, or is it not worth it? I would agree that for $1,900, and if there's some smaller expense to have gone through what we do that, I think we should do that, absolutely. But I think if we're gonna look at future expense where it's gonna be those dollar amounts, then I think that's something that we really gotta take a close look at.
Have to go in next year's budget.
Whether or not it's needed or not needed, and maybe it's a possibility where, you know, do you want it to be one of those topics in town where it's a huge fight? Maybe that's a topic of a referendum, you know?
Yeah.
Do you want, is this something that the city wants or doesn't want? You know, and that solves everything. Either you're gonna get the population that says yes, or the population that says no, and then that's it. But that's something that maybe this committee can address a little bit further. But I would definitely make the motion to send on the council to fund the repairs to those sirens at this point, moving forward, and then look further into it towards the end of the year, once we get a little bit more
absolutely.
facts into those, or whether or not that's something we wanna budget for, do a referendum, or whatever it may be.
Okay, yeah, I think that as long as we got that many that are working, it's try to keep them working.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have
And I was just gonna add on, you know, like, unfortunately, financial circumstances, 3 years ago is when the little bit of funds that was always kinda allocated to this committee for these purposes got deleted. And again, you know, just as we talked, obviously, I'm a proponent of life safety, so I'm gonna, you know, bring up all the swinging aspects and the positivities of having them. And that's why we're here, just to make that discussion, so that we're all kinda on the same page and know what it is, but it seems like it would be a really worth the while for the expenditures, at least the maintenance, you know, it's giving you that certification that we did our due diligence, you know, they are working, they're operational, and they're intact to the best that they can be during, unfortunately, to the age of them, we can't control that part. But we're doing our best to maintain them, and we're having a reputable company come in and kinda give it that stamp of approval.
Okay.
No, and I think before we go ahead with that motion is that if that's something that the council agrees with, then maybe that's something at budget time that, you know, if the annual maintenance is gonna be $1,900 or $2,500, then maybe that's something we should budget for
Right.
at budget time, and then any future expense above and beyond that, when it comes to replacing, well, then that would be a different situation. But
Cause we got what, 4 total?
4 total.
Yeah, so we'd be looking, I mean, if we're gonna replace them all, we'd be looking at
Exactly.
10 grand.
And, you know, baby steps, I'll always say, we're not known perfect and we don't have that crystal ball. But as a reminder, the one that was at Copper Culture, I think that was 10 or 12, 2010 or 12 when that one was installed. The one that's located out by the softball field at the high school is a newer model, cause that is another battery backup one. And it was the one at the well house on Farnsworth and Pecor and the wastewater treatment plant that are the oldest that aren't battery backup capable. You know, so yes, any of them could fail at any given time, but at least we do have two that are newer and one that's old but still very operational, and just one that we know is kind of giving some troubles.
Okay. You got the motion?
Yep, so I made the motion to send on to council to approve the, maintenance on all four sirens.
Should we put in there, not to exceed $2,500 or?
Well, I think that if it's, what did you say it was, Josh?
He'll do it's 1,900, right across the board, even with the maintenance. If
And that's speaking at all four of them?
that is looking at all four of them, yep. You know, added cost that could come up would be cranking length left in those battery backups, you know, some of that, which I can get a quote, but I don't know, I didn't have that part of it. You know, but he will come, visually inspect, grease, lube, tighten, all of that stuff is part of the 19.
I'm just thinking if we do have something that comes up, at least the council and everybody
Yep.
agreed for a little bit more,
Right.
but not to spend more, you know.
I think you can have that, I agree with you, I think you can have that topic of discussion at council, saying, okay, we're gonna approve this, but we'll go ahead and give the approval to Josh and myself if something does come up, not to exceed whether it be 3,000 or 4,000 or 2,500, you know,
And
if you want to do that.
And I
then
could
definitely do
always
that.
prepare for just to know in advance, you know, what are we looking at a cost estimate if we're looking at batteries or
Yeah.
some other things. So I mean, them are extra things that I can definitely get,
Okay.
just didn't think that far down the line for tonight.
Yeah,
Why don't you get that?
Yep, absolutely.
because we don't meet till the 7th and the 14th anyway, so even if we have it by the 14th,
Yeah.
it'll be good.
I'll second that.
Okay, Darrell second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to send the maintenance cost amount to council, finance first. Okay,
So what would be the process, to do a referendum, to ask the public what, you know, do you want this or not?
we'd have to put it on ballot.
Would it,
Go ahead.
For fall, or,
typically that'd be a spring election, unless there's a fall
Well, it's midterms. even.
midterm, yeah, you could put it on, there. That would be a Frank and Brittany question, and I don't wanna speak on something that I'm not 100% sure of.
I'll check with them on Monday, Casey.
thank you.
No, I was gonna add, I thought personally that referendums were only spring election, but again, that's just.
That's involved. I'll
Okay.
find out.
Yep,
if it's-
and then yeah, exactly. I thought I had read one time, so.
Okay. Any other emergency government item discussion?
Josh and I were just having a discussion, obviously, through these latest weather events. I will just get something to Brittany to post tonight, just on, give a quick update on the high water that we do have right now. We do have a couple power outages in the lift stations. We are having some basement backups in some areas. Obviously, the storm sewers are running at full capacity right now, so if you see water up in the street, the storm sewers aren't back up, they're not working, they're just at full capacity. So eventually, when that rain comes down, the storm sewers are gonna calm down, but, the guys are working diligently right now on the wastewater side of things to get those, lift stations back up and running, and obviously we've got the pumps in our main ones, just to make sure that we're keeping that main full going to the plant. So, but we will try to get something out there, shortly, just to let residents know what's going on.
Okay. Any other discussion items? Okay. Not, moving on to number 8, next meeting date, time, and agenda items.
I think that meeting date, we should just wait on, once we hear from council and get the approval to do the maintenance, And then once the maintenance done, then come back
Can
and
you report it
you
back?
can give a report back of what that maintenance was like. So,
Okay. Sounds good. Number 9.
Excellent.
Make sure-
Adjourn.
I'll say.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried to adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
I didn't get around, does anybody want a copy to have of that maintenance report? Like what the quote was like? I mean, I could run and make it real fast.
Yeah.
Cause I just got this one, but I'll run down them. You want them there?
Yeah.
Alright. What?
You good?
I'm tired.
You're cold, tired,
Freezing.
cold, eh? Mike Jabot called me, he says, his, culvert open between us and Westerville. I says, it's draining, but, you know. Well, he said, I had to get my pump out, and I'm pumping water out of my backyard into his pool. His basement there, his crawl space, whatever he calls it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what you wanna, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Memorial Field kiddie pool.
Yeah.
Yep,
It's concrete, remember, it's sort of about
yep,
that high.
yeah.
Yeah, the water runs through behind you guys pretty good, doesn't it?
Well, well, that drains all the way from Park Ave, where Mason lives.
Mm-hmm.
Goes all the way behind, well, myself, and gotta make that curve while where the telephone pole is sitting there now, that's all kinda heaved up, so I was talking to Mike, I said, why don't we just talk to, what's his first name? Anyway, he owns that house behind me, Mako, I can't think of his first name. I said, why don't we just talk to him and dig that out a little bit? I said, you gotta be careful though, cause there's wires buried there, lots of them.
Yeah. Cause that would be low running almost down the lot line.
Yep.
That's where they like to bury things.
Yes, they do. And not very deep either.
No.
And you always gotta worry about that resident on the corner of Main and Porter too.
Oh, no.
Shady.
You stop it.
I laugh every time I see your cow.
I love her. She's getting fresh paint this summer.
Everybody always points it out.
Really? You can come see it anytime you want
Is
to.
it gonna be a Guernsey this time, or is it
Yeah,
gonna
you
stay?
gotta paint it red.
It's staying.
It's staying?
It's
Okay.
staying. Yeah.
It's amazing the number of people that actually stop and get a picture.
People come in my yard and take pictures with it all the time.
Yeah.
I had a gang of motorcycles park their bikes like all along Main, and they all got out and like stood around the cow and took a huge picture. Thank you, Dustin.
I got them stapled up, that's why it took me so long. Not that I was still learning how to run the copier.
Oops, that might have worked.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Happy Easter, happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter.
I'll just keep you updated of any changes.
We're doing the meeting tonight.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just keep you updated for that changes, and obviously John Spice is keeping us both updated on that.
Yep.
Like I said, if
I hear something, I'll fire it to you in a text if it's